Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about the different types of behaviorism. This is something I learned in my history of psychology class, and it focuses on how behavior is shaped by the environment. Behaviorism is a psychological approach that focuses on observable behavior instead of internal thoughts and feelings. One thing I learned is that behaviorists believe behavior should be studied in a scientific and measurable way. So instead of asking what someone is thinking, they focus on what someone is actually doing. This type of behaviorism was developed by John B. Watson. I learned that he believes psychology should only focus on things we can observe and measure. This means ignoring thoughts and emotions completely. For example, instead of asking how a child feels about something, researchers would just observe how they react. Radical behaviorism was developed by B.F. Skinner. What I found interesting is that he didn't ignore thoughts and feelings, but he still considered them behaviors influenced by the environment. I learned that reinforcement and punishment are really important here, so if a behavior is rewarded, it's more likely to happen again. Classical conditioning was discovered by Ian Pavlov. I learned that it's about forming associations between stimuli. An often cited illustration of classical conditioning is shown by Pavlov. Through his research, he demonstrated that dogs can learn to associate a bell with receiving food. As such, the dogs began salivating at the sound of the bell, as the sound was a signal to them that food was about to be presented. Pavlov's experiment illustrated how classical conditioning occurs naturally. Operant conditioning, which also uses conditioning, was founded by B.F. Skinner. Skinner focused on how behaviors develop due to consequences of our actions. One example would be that if I positively reinforce my child by praising them for their good behavior, then I'll increase the chances of that child continuing to display good behavior. Another example is that if a child receives a negative consequence, removal of a privilege, for demonstrating unacceptable behavior will likely cause the child to decrease their likelihood of exhibiting that behavior in the future. Examples of this occur in our daily lives at both home and school. Cognitive behaviorism is a combination of behaviorism and cognition. Through cognitive behaviorism focuses on observable behaviors, whereas cognitive behaviorism includes both the observable behaviors and the cognitions that accompany the behavior. Most of the time, a therapist will use cognitive behaviorism techniques to help clients replace an unhealthy or negative thought process with a healthy or positive thought process. I learned that behaviorism focuses on how we learn as a result of interactions with the environment. Although the three types of behaviorism, classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and cognitive behaviorism, each have unique characteristics, they can all be used to help explain behavior. I believe this is fascinating because there are many ways to apply this theory today. I learned that a significant application of behaviorism is in the real world. For instance, it is present in education through reward systems and therapy through ABA, etc. Understanding behaviorism has given me insight on how behavior can be conditioned and modified. And here are my sources.